Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. In this first episode, I will be going over what you need to do to obtain your private pilot license. So, the first thing you need to do is to look up the private pilot license ACS. This document will give you a brief, a thorough guideline on how to obtain your private pilot license. With this document, the benefit of going through this is it will probably end up saving you more money throughout your entire training because you have all of the necessary procedure and is very organized for you. So for example, in this document, it will lay out what kind of performance you will need to learn to prepare for your private pilot check ride. As you can see, here are the maneuver. This is the table of content. And this is pretty much what it looks like. And with this part right here, it just talk about the pre-flight preparation. And each of these, you just look it up online what PAIBK1 is. So when you type that in online, it will spit out the definition and what it is all about. And that's pretty much what you need to learn and memorize for your oral and also for your check ride. Okay, next we have the map. This map is called a sectional chart used for VFR flying, especially come in handy for private pilot license. And this map covers the airspace of San Francisco. And when you have this chart, you want to verify the valid date of this chart because you don't want to use the map that is already expired. Okay, so when you obtain the map, the structure in the chart, you also want to grab a plotter and an E6B. So for the plotter, what you need to use for this is to measure the distance from point A to point B when you do a cross-country flying. And this plotter also have another function, which is to use this turning wheel right here to find your magnetic course for your route. And for the E6B over here, you use it to calculate for your ground speed on this spacer here, and also your wind correction for correcting your heading to find your magnetic heading and stuff like that. And on this back side, you use this side to calculate your fuel burn, the time it takes to get to your from point A to point B, and your gallon, how much gallon you will be burning per hour. And this size can also help you determine your density altitude. So these two tools will come pretty handy when you try to make your own flight plan. But for now when you go to make your flight plan for private pilot training, these are the primary tool that you will need. But however, as you progress this throughout your training, you will be using an electronic flight bag, which already have these two tools in it. Next thing you want to have is your pilot logbook. So this logbook, you can log all your flight hour in it. Here's what it looks like from the inside. These are basically all your flight hour records. So you're gonna need to have this in order to prove that you went through all your flight training and you used this hour to apply for your private pilot check ride. So basically, whatever you do or whatever happened, do not lose this logbook, because if you lose it, you basically lost all your money and all the training and all of that stuff. So you basically cannot recover this logbook unless you have like a backup or something that you upload this logbook into like a spreadsheet and save it into somewhere else. Next, when you go out for training on the flight, on which aircraft, you would need to know what aircraft you're flying. But for me, I use Cessna 172 for my flight training, and it is very important that you go through your POH, which is Pilot Operating Handbook, because in the private operating handbook, it talks about your aircraft in detail specifically. This is just what I purchased outside of my flight training school, but each aircraft will have a POH, Private Pilot operating handbook designated to that specific aircraft. So this is just like a reference of what a POA should look like. But inside it talks about how you can calculate all your aircraft performance and stuff like that. Basically, you can calculate your takeoff distance, land distance, fuel burn, etc., engine performance. And yeah, you in this page, or in this chapter, it gives you like a checklist on how to start your aircraft, etc., and I'll give you all the procedure, stuff like that. So with this FAR aim, this book contains the flight information that requires every pilot to know in order to fly within the U.S. Airspace. So this book is pretty thick, but the good thing about it is you don't have to go through all of this. So basically, what you want to do is you want to look for a section that applies to you. So basically, in this video, we'll talk about how to obtain your private pilot license. So you only have to look and read through the private pilot and recreational section only. So this is the only section that you will require to read through. So you can ignore these parts. These parts apply to you in the next step if you want to continue to obtain other license. But pretty much, you just go online and type in what is FAR Part 1. FAR Part 1 just give you a brief definition, terminologies, and all of that stuff. But some of these part up here is not in the book, so you will have to look online. It's called ECFR. Yeah, ECFR, to look up all the definition that are under these part. But for most, for most of it, like Part 61, they're in here. They're in this book. Okay, next we have the chart supplement. What this book talks about is give you a detailed information about the airport that you are interested in operating. As you can see, this book only covers all the airports that are highlighted within the state in blue here. And one important thing that you want to make sure when you have this book or use this book is to check the valid date. You don't want to use this book when it is expired. So, for example, this book, what it has inside is that it gives you a detailed information about the airport, such as radio communication frequency, navigation frequency, airport operating hours, and where the hotspots and stuff on the airport. This book also gives you an airport diagram, which you use during your taxi and stuff like that. And this is where all the airports are covered within this book. That's pretty much about this book. Okay, next we have a checklist. This checklist is used during the startup of the aircraft, and it will walk you through all the phases when you fly the aircraft. This one is designated to a Cessna 172N model, and basically each aircraft have a specific checklist that is designated to that particular aircraft. But for me, I use 172 for training. For anyone else who may use a Piper for their private pilot training, you may have a different checklist. So just check with your instructor on how to obtain your checklist. Some checklists can be found in the POH or the private operating handbook in the aircraft that you are flying. So it doesn't necessarily your checklist doesn't necessarily have to look like this, but it can be very organized if the checklists do come in this format right here.
Alright guys, welcome to the second part of the first episode of your private pilot training. So the next few items I'm going to cover are going to be the Pilot Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, your test prep book, the Airplane Flying Handbook, as well as my iPad, which is going to be representing the electronic flight bag. So the first item we have here is the Pilot Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. So for most of the knowledge you're going to need to have for your private pilot training, or even throughout the rest of your pilot career, can be found in this book. And this is the book that your instructor is going to be having you reference for the first few lessons. Before buying this book, make sure you have the right one and make sure it's current. The one I have here is no longer current. The next book I have is the Private Pilot Test Prep. So along with the flying you have to do, there's a series of ground questions you're going to have to be able to answer. So one of the items you have to do is take a knowledge test, which is a written one which you actually take on a computer. 60 questions, and you need a score of 70% to pass. So this book has a lot of questions that have been on past tests and ones that you can expect to see when you go and take your knowledge test. What we have in here are just a series of questions, as well as a testing supplement, which comes with a series of diagrams that you will be asked to reference while taking the test. And on the same note, make sure your book is current. This one here is already outdated, so just make sure you have the one for the current year. So the next one is the Airplane Flying Handbook. This book is actually nice to have, but yeah, we have an issue.
What?
Oh, we'll cut it out. Yeah. All right, so this book is nice to have, but it's not required. It's called the Airplane Flying Handbook. It talks about all the flight maneuvers you'll need to know as well as how to operate different kinds of aircraft and aircraft systems. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the examples really quickly. So this one's talking about flying approaches to landing. And if you go further on, it talks about more advanced aircraft and how to operate. So one of the items most people aren't too familiar with is the electronic flight bag. So as you can see here, all the items we have here, it could be a lot to carry into the aircraft with you, or just carry during your training. So what you could do is you can get an app called 4Flight, and you can save all your books and your books and publications can be downloaded on here, and ones that are certified by the FAA get updated every time a new update comes out. So for example, let's go to my resources really quickly, and you'll see just the AFD, which was covered in the previous episode. Once this one here expires, which says it expires on February 23rd, 2023, this book will the 4Flight will update it automatically. So this is nice to have. And rather than carrying sectional charts around, you can just download it on here and plot your own course. And this thing actually acts as a GPS for you. As you can see, the blue dot here represents where I'm at right now. This electronic flight bag seems nice to have with you because it makes flying a lot easier, but your designated pilot examiner on your check ride will not be happy if you just overly rely on this. So make sure, if you're going to get an electronic flight bag, if you want to make your flying easier, but just be sure to know how to use backup forms of navigation, or wait. Yeah, I'm going to cut that out. Yeah. I'm going to redo this part. Yeah. Alright guys, so what we have here is an electronic flight bag. So just using this one tablet, I'm able to take all of these items I have here and put it on this iPad and just take this with me and go fly. What you can see right now here is a San Francisco sectional chart, and I can use this to plot my route, find out my heading, calculate how much fuel I need to use. This app can do it all for me. In the documents section, I've downloaded a series of FAA documents as well as other documents I think I would need to take with me in order to fly. If your document that you've downloaded is published by the FAA, it is automatically updated once it expires. One example is the AFD here that was covered in the previous episode. Once this expires on February 23rd, it will be automatically updated. Even though this electronic flight bag, or EFB, sounds nice, be sure to not over rely on it, because you're expected to be able to use all available resources. So if you're over relying on the GPS capability of your iPad, your DPE might just take the tablet away from you and make you use a paper chart. So make sure you're familiar with using the basic tools to fly. Don't over rely on your electronic flight bag.